Hello everyone and welcome to AC Spotlight. Today I'm joined by Travis, the editor, producer, and player of the TTRPG Actual Play show. You've got to be critting me. 37 episodes deep, telling stories of chaos, crit fails, and quirky characters. Welcome!
Good to be here.
I'm really excited to learn. And I mean, honestly, just the name itself is it just lingers in the back of the mind. It'll always stay with you. Well, Travis, just to sort of ease us into this real quick, what is your tabletop snack of choice?
Snack of choice, probably Gardettos. Are you familiar with the kind of, if you're not, kind of Chex Mixy? They've got different spiced like pretzels and rye chips and that kind of thing. That's my go-to, I think.
That's valid. I mean, it's one of those things where when I'm having discussions with GMs, a lot of it is something like nothing that's crunchy, because there's always that fear of like the GM is talking out of the 5 players or 4 players, they're talking the most. And so as a player, you're given a lot more leniency. So I'm giving you a lot more leniency with crunchy food. You've kind of got the gambit, you know?
Yeah, I guess for us, especially since it's an actual play, we typically don't eat while we're recording. We take breaks in between and we'll snack off air usually.
Yeah. I think that's also, that's probably a good rule to have for any kind of production, especially when it comes with like audio quality. You know, you want to make sure that you don't hear smacking in the middle of an attack description.
Exactly. And since we play in person, you're going to pick up on the other person's mic. We're only a few feet away from each other.
I have a bit of I'd like to try this one out. Another sort of icebreaker question for you. Physical dice or digital dice?
Oh, I'm physical all the way. I've only been involved in the TTRPG community for maybe 2 years, but I already have more dice than I could ever use.
Are building up your own little hoard.
Exactly.
If you don't mind, I'd like to get sort of a little deeper into, you got to be critting me. Are you able to tell me maybe like the overarching story that's currently involved in the actual play?
Yeah, so our 4 characters, a typical, not met in a tavern, but met at a job board. We're all assigned to this task, and so kind of we meet, we get into it, and we've discovered everything as we go. There's this overarching plot thread of ancient evil known as the Dragon King that is plagued different realities for millennia, and we're hearing little tidbits that he may be re-entering the world, into our world. And you know, at the current time, we're only level 5. We are not ready to put a stop to this evil, so we're getting to learn our abilities, getting to know each other and how to work together, and that's kind of the overarching plot. And each character obviously has their own backstory that's tying in one way or another to everything.
Well, I mean, you mentioned this before, that you are one of the players.
Correct.
Here, and then obviously no one player nor one GM is an island alone. You have your party with you. Do you mind giving us a little bit more details about your character as well as the characters that your other party mates are playing?
Sure. So I play Malcia Sorrow, the Tiefling Bard, who, for convenience sake, happens to look and sound exactly like me outside of the red skin and horns. My character, in typical Bard fashion, may have been involved with a nobleman's wife and been excommunicated from his homeland.
But a goodie, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to redeem myself in the eyes of the community and be able to return home. I did go without the tragic backstory. That's as tragic as it gets. My family, as far as I know, is still alive and kicking. So there's also our dwarf druid, who's played by Nick. The character's name is Thormir Moonsight. He was off training in his for his druid abilities, comes back home, finds his whole town decimated, and he found a large, like, giant tooth that he wears around his neck that he keeps as not just a trophy, but like a clue to kind of find out what happened and how he can take revenge.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, our fighter Sephi, played by Morgan, is a Goliath fighter who was orphaned and raised by a family of humans. She's become a mercenary and kind of similarly came home to find her village destroyed, and is now just kind of, well, one, working to pay off debts that she accrued along the way, and trying to find out the backstory of what happened in her situation. The one who I'm kind of feeling as we go is kind of becoming the main character of the podcast is our thief warlock named Todd Van Wyck, played by Bryce. He was a researcher, kind of like an archaeologist. Something happened and he has no memory of his past. He and we're learning that as we go. Little tidbits. We're 37 episodes in and still don't really know much about him. He found this like petrified rat figurine that has kind of become a key link to his past. It's as we go. I also kind of don't want to give too much away. I want people to listen.
Oh, yeah. We don't need to go full detail. I mean, learning about just the character baseline, I think, is well enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, more incentive for you guys outside to please go check out your show. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when it comes to collectively finding people who are willing to sort of do not just a table game. I'll just say much when it comes to finding parties for TTRPGs or D&D specifically. Scheduling is always pretty difficult. But then you tack on the concept of having equipment and sort of the setup and sort of the production behind it. How did you? I'm sure you were part of that process. How did well? Let me ask this first. Tell me more about your GM, and then second, how did you guys all find each other?
So the GM was probably the easiest one. He's actually my brother-in-law. He's married to my sister, and he had been looking for a group for years. He played in the past and took a little break and was looking for a new group. And my sister was like, "Travis, you have to play." Like, I'm like, "Okay, it's family." And so Nick is one of my best friends. I've known him forever. And Morgan is a good friend of my wife, and so we invited her. And Bryce, who is a good friend of the GM Jeff and my sister, and so there's kind of a link. Like, we didn't have to go too far to find everybody, but it did all end up working out. And it was my idea to make a podcast out of it. One, because I love actual plays. I listened to a few, and it's just a lot of fun. And two, I'm a terrible note taker, and now I can just go back and listen to the podcast without having to take notes.
Good. So this all started with, obviously, it seemed like there was already pre-established relationships. People kind of knew each other through family, friends, all that. That's honestly a great way to kind of get everyone comfortable at the table, that everyone knows somebody in some form or fashion. But you mentioned that this was your intention to turn it into a production. Was it always intended to be a live action, like an actual play, or did it evolve from like a home game?
It was not always intended to be an actual play. We did start off that way. We never, this is actually my first time in earnest playing a TTRPG at all. I kind of dabbled once, like when I was a teenager, but it didn't really go anywhere. So we all had been talking about doing it, and then I was like, why don't we make an actual play out of it? Like, maybe it goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't, but it'll just kind of give us more of an excuse to get together. Like, we've put all this time and money and effort into it. Like, we should probably get together and play.
Was everyone at the table, yourself included, aware of what an actual play was?
Yeah, everybody was aware. I was probably the most aware. Everybody kind of knew, but I don't think anyone else had really listened to many besides myself. But it wasn't a completely foreign concept.
Oh, okay. People were able to adjust to it pretty quickly. It wasn't that alien of a concept. There's always this interesting dynamic, especially when you're thinking of building your own actual play channel, and sort of in your own case being sort of the producer, the editor, and having sort of the back end all behind it, that there is this idea that some people think, well, you get a couple of friends together, you sit down and tell a story, and then somewhere along the way, there's a recording device. Little do they know, there's a lot more steps to it behind the scenes. Is there any, like, when you were making the actual play of You Gotta Be Critting Me, was there any surprising steps where you're like, I didn't realize that, like, audio balancing was such a demanding thing? Or was there any sort of unique step that you had to go through to create your show?
Well, I think I'll first start by saying, so in my day job, I'm a TV videographer. I work for a news station.
Oh, you had the base for...
I have an experience editing and, recording, but all the actual plays I've listened to have been audio only. And that is what we do. However, for social media, you need video. And I kind of didn't go into this thinking about that. I'm like, oh, I got the audio equipment, but now I need to get cameras, which wasn't something I was thinking of. And then I'm like, how expensive do I go? Like, if it's just for social media, I don't need to spend thousands of dollars on cameras, but I want it to be good enough that people don't just see a like low res video and scroll by.
Fuzzy blob or something.
Yeah. So that was probably the biggest issue, was like, how much do I put into the video aspect of our audio podcast?
It seems that you recognize that social media definitely was sort of another component when it comes to making a production like this. Considering the fact that you do have sort of a TV background, was that something that you had to discuss with the rest of the party? Like, hey, you may end up being on social. Like, this is a thing that may occur.
It was, and that kind of, I wouldn't say took some twisting of arms, but that was a more, it was a discussion that we had to have. I was like, look, if we do want this thing to take off, like, we have to do social media. That's like,
it's an unfortunate
must.
game. Yeah.
And I will say, the DM, Jeff, has been instrumental in helping me kind of run and manage the social media. Like, I would say I do 60% of it and he does 40. So he'll do a lot of, especially text posts, and if I might edit something and send it to him to kind of schedule out. But yeah, it took at first a little bit of convincing to get everybody to be comfortable being on camera, let alone audio.
No, I that feels fairly valid. I have a couple of at-home parties that I have expressed that they would never want to be on camera or have their voice or something of them publicized in some form or fashion. When it comes to making an actual play, there's this like extra layer of notice when it comes to where your desires or kind of love of content creation comes from. Obviously, you want to make sure that Jeff is telling a good story. You want to be involved in such. You want to have to, go on this grand adventure. There's this love of tabletop that is a major piece of an actual play. And then we just mentioned too that there's like this extra end of the love of creating content just for content's sake, whether that is for entertainment purposes or maybe you're trying to get some additional attention or maybe growing in some way in the social form. The fact that you have a TV background, going a little further back from that, were you always interested in like digital content creation, like either growing up or through school?
Well, I kind of feel like I might be a little bit older than you. That wasn't really a thing when I was growing up outside of TV in general. Like, social media didn't really take off until I was almost out of college. But I had a little video camera when I was at home, and I'd make like stop motion claymation videos growing up.
Oh,
and
nice.
I did that kind of thing. I wish I still had those. I should ask my parents if they have those tapes. I'd like to do something with that. But I also have a theater background, so I am comfortable being in front of camera and being in front of people. I've always liked telling stories, not necessarily content creation, but just telling stories. And that's kind of what led me into my TV career and also the podcast. Like, I definitely lean more towards entertainment, fun, comedy, maybe, than like something really dramatic. However, the podcast is a little bit of both. It definitely has serious moments, but a lot of comedy to break up the the seriousness.
Yeah, I've seen a few parts of a few episodes, and there's a good amount of actual plays I've seen online where it's a lot of like above like above table talk is kind of hushed, where or either that or it's cut out because it's edited. However, for You Gotta Be Critting Me, what I've noticed is that's almost encouraged, is a lot of above table discussion of moves and actions and thought process. From my experience, I saw there was a bit of a two-parter or a three-parter that you guys released that kind of slipped into a bit of education for a little bit. There was a player who was talking about what kind of character they should make. Was that always a discussed decision of like, hey, we don't need to be that strict when it comes to the content we're producing. We can educate and inform and kind of walk our own thought processes on camera or on record as we go along, or is it just something that blossomed the way it did?
I think it just kind of grew naturally. Like we didn't really plan, and kind of nobody knew what they were doing as we went into it. We kind of found grew into our own as we went. Like I said, I did have experience listening to a couple of actual plays, and like specifically, Adventure Zone is a big one. And believe it or not, I've never actually watched Critical Role. I kind of feel like that's blasphemy almost in the TTRPG world.
Honestly, it's a blessing and a curse. People will say you're missing on good stories, and the other people will say, well, you're not being subjugated to like the Walmart of the big box storytelling of Matt Mercer. Though again, good storytelling, but you're kind of keeping it to your own island, which is not a bad thing.
Exactly. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but once we started our show, a little bit of, because I don't have as much time to listen, and also I don't want to be influenced too much by other shows. I haven't really listened to a lot since we started doing ours, but I felt like the table talk, as long as it wasn't too irrelevant, really added to it. Like you got to get into the minds of the players of like why we're doing this, what kind of our thought process is, and because I love the story of our show. Like I'm as much a fan as I am a player of the show. Like I love to go back and listen to it, but I think it would be, it's almost, I guess, kind of like a book. If it was just the dialogue in a book, I think it would be much less interesting than, everything in between, all the like direction and the things people are thinking as they take whatever action they're taking. So it wasn't necessarily something we thought about, but I'm glad that it turned out the way it did.
I like that analogy of comparing it to a book, because it's like the concept of you will see the quotations for when a character in a book is talking, physically to another person or to an object or whatever fantasy thing you're reading at the moment. But nearly half of the book also is the internal dialogue the character's having, or like the expressed emotion that they're going through. That's kind of what the above table talk is for tabletop. Is that you can literally go, I think my character's feeling kind of angry right now, so he's going to end up doing this and say this. If you just went right into it, no one had the context, and it would be a less impactful story. So I think it's a great choice to sort of allow that to happen.
Thanks. Yeah, that's kind of really what I was thinking, especially after the first episode. I'm like, yeah, we need to keep all of this stuff in, because it really informs helps the audience learn the information the characters have as they take whatever actions they're taking.
I will ask, because obviously with your own history in TV as well as sort of production and all that, for let's say we have a scenario where we have a brand new creator who is looking to get into actual plays, looking to create their own. Is there, you've mentioned this, you've been doing it, 37 episodes, you've had a history in sort of this. Is there any advice you would give to somebody who's just starting out? What's something that you've taken away and went, I got to remember this if I ever started this again?
I think you don't need to put a ton of money into it at the very beginning, which is something I learned after putting a ton of money into it at the beginning.
Learning the hard way.
Yeah, like I will say audio is probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't sound good, people aren't going to listen. That's just period. Like, you don't need to put a ton of money into it, but if you don't, whatever editing software you use needs to be able to at least some way make up for the lower quality microphones. Like, you need to do some post-production, like not equalize, but cut out the like room tone. That is a big thing. Because if you hear the hum in the back, even in a room without air conditioning,
a laptop fan or an actual fan that's in the corner. Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, to be able to take that out really makes it sound more crisp, even without a super high quality microphone. But audio quality first, and no, like, even though I do keep a lot of the table talk in, there is a lot I cut out. And I've heard some beginner podcasts that just, they hit record, play for 2 hours, and then stop recording, and that's the podcast. I would also highly advise editing. Like, there's a lot you don't need to keep in. Like, and our podcast, I think, goes pretty quick. Like, I cut out a lot of the pauses. Like, we're thinking about what we're doing. Nobody knows what we're going to say. It's not scripted. So I cut out a lot of the pauses. And that is another thing that I think is important. Like, nobody wants to sit there and listen to a lot of ums and uhs and just dead air.
A lot of love for people who have to go through each line and sentence and just remove the lot of, I mean, I do uhs and ums all the time. So goodness me, that's a work and a half. I think I'm very lucky the fact that we are speaking Travis mainly because you mentioned before that you're the one who sort of had the inception of the You Gotta Be Crit to Me came from you, and myself, who I've been part of, creative productions where you are trying to find a brand voice or name, as well as image and iconography. So I would only assume, and you don't have to divulge if you don't need to, but I only assume that there were alternatives to You Gotta Be Critting Me that were kind of floating in the background of possible names for the actual play. Do you remember any of those?
I think I do. There was, I will say everyone that we thought of was taken.
Oh no. That is fair. It's so hard to be original too. Just to sort of get a name that's, yeah.
I want to say, and we all kind of went into it with wanting to do a more like kind of tongue-in-cheek or like playful title. So there was like Crit Happens or Crit Heads or something like that. And of course, those were taken. I am so surprised You've Got to Be Critting Me was available. And I have to give full credit to our player, Nick. That was his idea, the title. And as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh, that's it. We don't need to keep brainstorming. That's the one.
Check Instagram, check the YouTubes. Is it taken? No, it's not. Take it right away. Grab it.
I think we have it everywhere but Twitch. Twitch, for some reason, it was taken there, but nowhere else.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, I know the feeling. Sometimes it's hard to get something universal across all platforms. It's just to end on, because when it comes to especially our own viewpoint here at Arcane Circle, very much of the importance of safety utilized at the table. What I've learned, especially when talking to different actual play GMs, is that there is this more emphasized on enjoyment of the story by both the parties, like yourself, the player who's currently enjoying the story, as well as the enjoyment of an audience member sort of listening in. So when it comes to that argument, that age-old argument of, are we rules of cool or are we rules as written, generally we kind of lean towards the cool. However, is there a rule that currently is at, you see the GM is Jeff, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Is there a rule at his table that is currently written in stone, like that no one has broken it or no one dares to break it?
I don't think so. And since I'm just a player, I kind of don't know what he does behind the scenes much, but he hasn't really been a stickler for the rules too much. Like, I think if there's something that we want to do that maybe isn't in the rules at all, he's open to finding a way to do it. Like, we actually, in the most recent episode, we're just talking about like combining spells. If there was a way for two players to like combine spells to make them more powerful, he was like, I don't think that's a rule, but I'm willing to think about it. We could find a way to make something like that happen. So I think he's really open to the rule of cool over being a hard and fast rules lawyer.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And then honestly, those birth better stories overall, I've noticed. Not to say that, Rules of Written can't, especially if you're looking for something more nitty gritty, but definitely the fluidity and nature of having something that can be altered, changed, or bent a little bit is really, really fun. Well, I want to thank you so much, Travis, for joining me, not only for sharing your adventures and your experience with me, but also everyone on the internet. Do you mind telling people where they can find you? And you got to be critting me.
So check all the socials. It's, like I said, pretty much at You've Got to Be Critting Me everywhere, but on Twitch, it's at Critting Me Pod. Although we're not as active there as we should be. Instagram is the big one. Like, that's where we're most active. You've Got to Be Critting Me there. Yeah, that's where you're going to find all the information, all the updates. We try to update every time we have a new episode out. Not as good at that as I should be.
Hey, you know what? IRL always comes first. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. And for you, the audience, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.